Welcome to the College Recruiter webinar series. The subject of today's discussion will be on Beyond Text, Communicating in Gen Z, Starting Out Strong. This is part one of a three-part webinar series. My name is Andrea McEwen Henderson, and I will be your host today. I am one of the national account managers with College Recruiter. I have a dozen years of experience in helping large and small employers reach recent college graduates and students. My primary responsibilities are facilitating our webinars, moderating the discussions at our college recruiting bootcamp conferences, as well as working with small to mid-sized employers on their entry-level hiring needs. College Recruiter is the highest traffic college job board with 150,000 unique monthly visitors. We help employers reach recent graduates and students of 1, 2, and 4-year colleges and graduate schools. We have permission to deliver emails on behalf of our employer clients, the 7 million recent graduates and 10 million students, and we can also target them by major, school, year of graduation, diversity, and more. Our other solutions for employers include job postings, targeted mobile banner ads, targeted display ads, virtual career fairs, and custom research projects. For more information about College Recruiter, you can reach us at www.collegerecruiter.com/, or 952-848-2211. Today's guest is Bethany Wallace, an English instructor at the University of Arkansas Community College at Batesville. Bethany has a background in academic advising and career services and enjoys working in higher education. She currently teaches English composition and oral communication courses and helps her students understand the importance of applying academic concepts to life beyond the classroom. Follow Bethany on Twitter at Wallace M. Bethany, or on WordPress at justwheat, as in flour, .wordpress.com. So thank you, Bethany, for joining us today as we begin this three-part webinar series on communication and Gen Z. So my first question for you as we dive in is, how would you define great communication skills?
Thanks for having me, Andrea. I think how I would define great communication skills, honestly, is the same way that our textbook defines communication skills that I use when I teach oral comm, and that is that great communication skills are a combination of communicating effectively and appropriately. And so that's in any given context. And that's really, knowing what to say, who to say it to, and when to say it, and just being able to combine those things sort of effortlessly. But most people can't do that naturally, especially, I think, students starting out. That's just really kind of difficult. And so I think that just takes practice and time. And the only way to practice that is to get out there and put yourself out there and in lots of different situations, and give yourself opportunities to do that time and time again. And my mentor always tells me, say what you mean what you say, but don't say it mean. And so I always try to do that. And some of us are really good at the say what you mean and mean what you say part, but not so much the not say it mean. So I pass that on to my students in oral comm all the time.
Absolutely, absolutely. So why do you think today's college students, most of whom are part of Gen Z, need to be concerned about developing communication skills?
Okay, well, first of all, I wanted to just briefly define Gen Z, because I was talking to some of my current students who are Gen Z students, and they didn't know what Gen Z was. So I was asking them sort of the same questions I'm going to be talking about today. And they said, well, what is Gen Z? So Gen Z is roughly defined as, if you were born in 1995 or before then. So just to qualify that. So I think that it's really important for Gen Z students to better their communication skills or acquire those skills, because if you read up on Gen Z or research it, you'll find that Gen Z students have a lot of really great qualities. Some of the really great qualities that Gen Z students have are that they're very connected with technology. They have great ability to adapt, and they're considered digital natives. So they grew up with technology, and so if you put any sort of computer device, smartphone in front of them, whatever, they can pick up on it way faster than I can, because I'm not in Gen Z. So I learn from them sometimes. I just got a new smartphone and I took it to my students, and they showed me how to do things that it would have taken me, probably weeks to figure out. So that's a great quality to have. They're also really great at multitasking. So some of those things are great attributes that you can take not just in the classroom, but then later apply them to the workplace. However, there are also some drawbacks to being part of Gen Z and having grown up with technology and being inundated with that. And some of those things are that maybe you have, they are also known for having a higher IQ, but known for having a lower emotional intelligence level, for not having great communication skills. And these are things that are backed up by research. For Gen Z students are known for having very short attention span. And Gen Z students are known for having lower self-awareness. Well, when you think about those sorts of things in the context of communication skills, those are things that can really cause problems. When I was growing up, I'm 36 years old. So when I was growing up, you know, face-to-face opportunities for interaction were just everywhere. I went to school all in face-to-face traditional classes. There were no online class options. So class discussion was just expected. And now it's really not like that. There's sort of at least a blend. Maybe you don't take all online classes, but some of that traditional class discussion opportunity has been removed. And we can order our pizzas online. We can do everything on. There's an app for that. There weren't apps for anything when I was growing up, and so I kind of feel sorry for my students as a faculty member, because when I walk in the classroom, let's say in a traditional classroom that I teach at my school, and it's a small school, there may be 20 students, and when I say good morning, 15 to 20 of my students don't greet me. They're looking down at their phones. And I'm not trying to criticize that. I'm just saying that's just the world that we live in, that we're disconnected. So that digital native is often digitally isolated. So there really is a need for communication skills, because the reason it's a need is because later you need those skills in the workplace. You need those skills when you start doing a job search. It's expected that you're able to communicate face to face. Whether we like it or not, that's just an expectation in the world and in the workplace. And so if you don't gain those skills as students, then you're going to get out in that world of career and workplace settings and not be able to apply the skills because you never gained them in the first place.
Wow, I couldn't agree with you more. I certainly see it with my daughter and her friends, and you're absolutely correct. So when do you think students need to start worrying about or concerning themselves with developing these communication skills?
I would say right now. And, like right now, meaning today. And man, it's just such a soapbox for me. Like, I could preach it all day long to everyone I know. I would use the analogy of maybe training for the Olympics. If you're an athlete, that you wouldn't sit around on the couch eating Cheetos for 4 or 5 years before Olympic tryouts, that you're going to get out and start working out and start doing like serious workouts and practices, hire a coach, go to small competitions that lead up to the bigger competitions, and really discipline your body, discipline your mind. You hear about Olympians all the time that they listen to recordings that sort of pump them up. I mean, there's just a lot that goes into being an Olympian. There is no such thing as a Michael Phelps who just woke up one day and became a great swimmer. I mean, that doesn't happen. They spend like a ridiculous number of hours preparing for that sort of thing. And it's really the same way, maybe that's an extreme example, but seriously, it's really the same thing with preparing for going and doing job interview after job interview, or even just the job search. It's a tedious process, and students sometimes have a really rude awakening when they think it's just like, whoa, it's going to fall in my lap and happen. I'll admit, I thought that was going to happen for me when I graduated. I went to a small liberal arts school that was sort of touted as being a really great school. And I thought people would just see it on my resume and be like, wow, you're hired, you graduated from there. No, I had one employer who saw that college on my resume and was impressed. Everybody else could not have cared less where I went to school. Which, I mean, my alma mater would probably hate to hear that, but it's the truth. So, yeah, it matters. You really have to start building those skills while you're in school. If you wait till you're out of school, you have a harder time. Not that it's impossible, but it's just harder. Because while you're in school, you just have this built-in support system. So why not take advantage of it while you're there?
Absolutely. And certainly employers are looking for not only just the academic, but they want those soft skills. And just very, very important. So how should current students develop an action plan for, improving their communication skills?
I would say that the first thing that I would do is get a mentor before doing anything else. And a mentor doesn't have to be, someone that you pay at all, or someone that is a perfect match with your ideal position or anything like that. But it just needs somebody to be somebody who you respect and who's willing to spend a little bit of time guiding you through the process of acquiring some of those like soft skills and life skills that you need to be able to move forward in the journey toward becoming sort of a better, candidate. And the best places that I would suggest starting would be career services or career development. Every campus has some sort of office like that, and that's a great place to start. And then maybe your advisor, if you have an academic advisor or something, advising office on your campus. I know some community colleges don't have a career services person, but they do have advisors. And so, or a faculty member, if you have a faculty member who you think, man, well, Miss Wallace has worked in technical writing, and I'm interested in being a technical writer. So then ask a faculty member, and they're sometimes willing to help you. So, get a mentor and start asking the right questions. Just ask any questions. If you're not sure what the right ones are, just ask questions and start getting some help. And then take advantage of those organizations on campus that are there to help you, like the advising office, career services, and those places, because they have workshops that all of those things are free. And if you don't take advantage of those things, then you're really doing a disservice to yourself, because they're there to help you and they want to help you. And you don't even know what's out there and what they offer unless you just ask. And read the emails that they send you or their Facebook page or whatever way that they communicate on campus. If you actually pay attention to what they post, then maybe you'll actually know what's going on. Another thing is take oral communication as a class. And I know I'm kind of, touting my own course here, but seriously, it's a great course, and even if it's not required, you can always count it as an elective. And I have tons of students who say that was one of the best classes I've ever taken. Like, they never plan on speaking publicly. It's not what they want to do with their life, but it helps them if later they have to even give like a toast at a wedding. I had a student who just stopped me the other day in our grill on campus and said, I have to give a toast at a wedding for 150 people, and I'm so glad I took this class, because otherwise I'd be so nervous right now. So you just never know when those sorts of skills are going to come in handy. And another thing I would do is really get off campus and interact with people. So maybe don't order that pizza online. Go to the pizza place and get it. Just try to burst your own bubble. You can't wait for everybody else to come to you and give you opportunities to communicate. You're going to maybe have to do it yourself, especially just in the world we live in. It's so convenient to not communicate. So, just get out there and do it. Put your own self forward and create those opportunities for yourself. It's one of those areas when you have to be proactive. If you're waiting for everybody else to do it, then that may never happen for you. But you're the one that will suffer later when you haven't built those vital skills.
Great points. And certainly, I know when I was in college, I took the classes from public speaking to oral presentation. I took that class as well. And certainly career services, a lot of schools have like interviewing techniques as a workshop. So great tips, great tips. What about recent college graduates who missed out on those type of opportunities to develop their communication skills while they, were in school? So what can they do now at this point to develop those crucial communication skills, to help them move forward?
Sure. I think that sometimes that happens. Well, kind of like I mentioned that I kind of thought I knew everything, and so I didn't think I needed any of those people. When I was a student, I was one of those people. And so one of the tips I would give people who find themselves in that boat is, first of all, maybe try to connect with their alumni office, because alumni offices often provide networking opportunities for alumni. Also, look for young professionals organizations. Most cities have those. If you live in a really small town, then you may have to just suck it up and look for some kind of nonprofit organizations that you can get involved in. And they may not be totally your cup of tea, like maybe a book club or the Humane Society. Maybe you don't love cats, but you can still get involved in something that will help you get out there and just meet people. That's the goal, is to find opportunities where face-to-face you're going to have to interact with people. And the advantage to doing that is that you're just going to have practice, like I talked about earlier. Is you have to practice building those skills. They don't just come to you. You can't. This is just one of those things in life when you can't read the great art, and not that LinkedIn doesn't have great articles, but you just can't read those articles and by osmosis sort of adopt those concepts and philosophies and then become a great communicator just because you read an article about 3 great ways to communicate. You have to actually do this stuff and take the action. So I would suggest just finding ways that you can put yourself out there. When you're in opportunities where you are around people, get off your phone. Put your phone in your pocket and actually talk to people. So if you're at Walmart, or whatever grocery store you have in your area, put your phone away and actually interact with the person who's checking you out. Ask her how her day was. Just chit-chat about something. And for one thing, you'll make her day a little more pleasant. And secondly, you will just build your communication skills just a little bit more. And another thing is, you never know when you might network with someone and build add someone to your network, because the people come in the most unlikely places who can later help you out or who you could help out. And, remember, networking it's a two-way street. So that's just something to keep in mind. There's been so many times in my life when just walking through the grocery store, I'll see somebody who actually turns out to be a great contact, gives me a great lead for a job, or something like that. And if I had just had my head down and was in my phone, or even just thinking about my own problems or something, I would not have had that great opportunity. So really, making sure that you're making eye contact with people and smiling, which that's nonverbal communication, that's still a communication skill. Those things are just really vitally important. And if you're not practicing that stuff on a regular basis, then you're going to lose it. It's like that use it or lose it thing, I use this analogy sometimes with my students, but it's kind of like, you don't want to be like an old cat lady surrounded by a bunch of cats on your couch. You got to get out there and date, and keep on dating. So same thing with communication. You really have to practice communication on a regular basis. Don't lose those skills. Just so while you're in college, you're using them all the time. When you get out of college, then don't just go be complacent and become a recluse. Just go to work, come home, go to work, come home. You have to really build those skills and keep using those skills. And then the next time that you have to do a job search or you have to go interact with people, it'll feel fresh because you're doing it all the time anyway.
Great. And my final question for you for this part of the series, is if you could share 3 words of wisdom with college students today regarding communication, what would you say?
I think the first thing I would say is, and this is a good tip for anyone who is just slightly introverted or uncomfortable with talking to people, especially people they don't know very well, because I'm a little bit that way. I'm a little bit introverted, believe it or not, is I always ask people to tell me about themselves. And I don't always say it that way, tell me about yourself. But I'll use that when I go to mingly schmoozy events. I don't enjoy those kind of events at all, but I have to go to those things for work. on a regular basis. And when I have to do those events, when I ask people stories about themselves, or if I overhear like they're talking about something and I ask deeper questions, or, oh, that sounds really cool. How did you get involved in travel? Or how did you end up with a tiger living in your house, which actually happened in real life? Then
okay.
they'll actually, people love to talk about themselves.
Yep.
I mean, they love it. And I won't tell you all my reasons why I think that's true, but it's true. So if you can get people talking about themselves, it takes so much pressure off you. And it will just put them at ease. It puts you at ease because then you don't have to talk about yourself. So if you're introverted, then you can take a little sigh of relief, breather, because you kind of stop talking. You're just listening. And at the end of the night, they're like, man, I loved talking to her. She was such a good conversationalist. And you didn't really say much, but all of a sudden you have like a new little best friend, and they probably added you to their network of people that they thought, was a great person. So there's a good tip. Another thing that I would say is to try, this has also helped me in I had this is something I learned when I worked in sales. I'm not really a natural salesperson because I felt like being in sales was dishonest, and I felt like I was pushing stuff on people. And a lot of sales is all about communication. And so when I was in sales, I started thinking, I'm just going to try to help people and give them something that they can use. And so I started trying to think of it as building a relationship and sharing. And that really helped me not just in sales, but in every conversation I had. So when I was networking, I stopped thinking of it as, I'm trying to get a business card from them. That's not really nice. And I'm just trying to get a job lead, and I feel selfish about that. I stopped thinking of it like that, and I just started thinking of it as, I'm trying to connect with them. I'm trying to build a relationship. And that's more genuine to me. And so that sort of helped me get over that sort of mental obstacle that I had about networking. And then the third thing I would say is to never be too proud of yourself to say that you're sorry or that you made a mistake, because all the time in communication that will happen. You'll forget someone's name. You'll stumble over your words. You'll put your foot in your mouth. My gosh, I can't even tell you how.
Another webinar.
Yeah.
10 things to don't do.
Yes, I could write a book. So that's a really good one, I think, is just be humble enough to say you're sorry. And people are so forgiving. And I think people will grow to accept you and like you more if you're willing to just say, I screwed up, please forgive me for that. So.
Great tips, Bethany. I can't wait for part 2 and 3. So thank you for joining us today as we discuss Beyond Text, Communicating and Gen Z Starting Out Strong. Remember, this is part 1 of a 3-part series. Join us for part 2 when we will be discussing Nailing the Interview. Thanks again, Bethany.
Thank you.